Hello, welcome to the E08 Show. I'm your host, John E08. In this episode, no regulars, cause reasons, again, as always. And as for our guest, shocker, there is none. There isn't a guest on this podcast episode. It's just gonna be me, apparently. So, there's a lot to get into. I'm not just talking about my life, cause, well, I'll get into that eventually. But of course, there is an incident happening in the news. And no, it's not one of those stories that revolves around American politics, just in general, or any crazy world event that the elites are controlling the populace or whatever. No, none of that actually. It's actually regarding to a famous pop star that was once part of a very, very famous boy band. So famous, in fact. A couple of my mates from school, college, and university, they enjoyed listening to their music for years, and ever since the passing of that pop star, man, they were disheartened. And I've seen so many reports about it, and yeah. But of course, before I would get into that, which is going to be quite lengthy, I think, personally, just so that you're all aware in terms of the previously uploaded episodes, I had a very busy week for the past few months, and I think this was roughly around late August to somewhere around September when it comes to getting guests onto the podcast. Now, I want to bring on more guests again on this podcast and also the Opinionistics, the other podcast. However, for some reason, I just can't be asked. And not just that, even if I want to, again, my life has been very busy the last few months with my third final year at uni, work-related stuff going on. That was an enrollment issue with the system at my university. Thankfully, that's all sorted out. And of course, I think that's about it, really. But yeah, my life's been hectic, it's been crazy, and oh boy, that's just the beginning. And also, like I mentioned with the regulars on this podcast, that once I do finish my final year at university, a lot of things are gonna happen to me. Like, by the time I graduate, this project I'm working on with Eric and Shadow Miner would already be launched to the public. And I say public, it's not a closed or it's not a beta using test flight for iOS or whatever Android users. This project that me, Eric, and Shadow Miner have been working on, it's already been launched by the time I graduate. And also by the time I graduate, there's this film that I was an extra for. It would already been released somewhere around the springtime of 2025 onto Amazon Prime. Everyone's going to be talking about that film. Not a lot, but it's a good movie from what I've seen at the premiere, and the people, the cast in that film were very nice and very enjoyable, of course. So yeah, I am very excited for what's to come. My final year at uni, by the time I graduate, possibly the opportunities I'll get. However, at the price of the British taxpayer. No, I'm joking, not the British taxpayer. But I will say, I'm going to get tons of jobs that some people have said to me. Yeah. Anyway, I was gonna say what I said to the regulars. The world is a stage, and also a video game. There is an audience watching a show that takes place on that stage. And on this stage, there are performers. They enact something that happens in the world, a major event. Everyone in the audience gave their reactions, whether they approve of it, disapprove of it, are they happy about it, are they mad, are they fuming, or whatever they're feeling or emotional about, whichever performance drives the most emotion, they'll be given more opportunities to recreate these said major events happening around the world, performing to a different kind of audience. And this cycle repeats itself over and over until we finally kick the bucket, and depending on how we contribute to the planet, we either ascend to the clouds above, or we just drop down to the underworld. That's just me. So, that is what's to come in my life. I may not agree with what goes on in the world. However, I will say, It is a lot for me to take in. Now, by the time I finish my final year at uni, I'm not expecting a lot of jobs to just be piled on me all at once. I think it will take time for each of these jobs to be given to me. And when I say jobs given to me, I'm talking auditions to be part of TV shows, movies, commercials, voiceover work, because that's what I want to do when I leave university. So, yeah, I think there's so much going on for me, not just now, but also in the next few years. And like I've discussed with the regulars, there's so much going on in this world, and whatever they're doing to get people emotional or get people to react the way they want, that the higher ups want the people to react, they're doing very good at that. They're doing a very good job at that. Again, I may not agree with it, but I gotta respect the hustle, and whatever they're doing in this world, I can't argue with that. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, well, they already had it coming. Alright, so enough about my life and all the madness that's going on. And now the discussion about the famous pop star that was once part of a famous boy band. When I first heard about this news about Liam Payne, for those who may not know who this is by now, it's Liam Payne I'm talking about. When I heard the news that he passed away, falling off a third story hotel balcony in Argentina, I was like, no, what? No way. Usually when famous notable names pass away, I'm just unfazed most of the time. Not that I'm emotionless, or not that I don't give a damn. I just know that some people, including us, there comes a time when our presence on this earth eventually comes to an end. And again, depending on how we contribute to the planet, we ascend to the clouds above or drop down into the underworld. Hearing about Liam Payne's passing, that was a shocker to me. That blew me away. And not in a good way. I find it disheartening. He's 31, he passed away. That is so young. That's such a young age to pass away. I'm to this day, I'm still speechless, although I'm not fully flabbergasted like I was the night it announced. But it still boggles my mind that a famous celebrity so young can pass at such a young age. And of course, I've heard people on social media and online saying, "Oh, it's the drugs," and you know what? Yeah, they're right. The drugs, they do something to you. All kinds of stuff. Most of them bad. The some that are good, well, either you get that recommended by a doctor. I wouldn't know much about that, but all I know is most drugs in this world, they it may give you short-term sensations, but in the long term, they do you dirty. They really do. And given all that, and hearing tons of news stories regarding Liam Payne's passing, how he died, and the results in terms of his death in general, although I do get the idea on how it happened, why it happened. Well, okay, I may not fully know exactly on everything. I do have questions in most of these things. When this news came out, like the day, I was like I always do with stories in regards to American politics, any politicians, major world events, or geopolitics, or whatever major event goes on in this world. I just share in the Discord chat with the regulars, Eric, Risk 11. But for a story like this, I didn't. Because of two reasons. Firstly, Liam Payne is not just some famous pop star that was once part of a famous boy band. He has a family. And of course, he has a son who's questioning to his mother about how come everyone's talking about my dad like that? I know a lot of One Direction fans and possibly Liam Payne fans, well, but mostly One Direction fans, would be aware that Liam Payne has a son with Cheryl Cole. But for those who aren't One Direction fans or just don't pay attention to whatever notable celebrities are doing, they're not going to know that. And for whatever media outlets reporting this story, all they want to do is tell the story as it is, looking at the details of the story. What are people saying about the situation, and possibly other factors that's hard to describe or something I just can't name off the top of my head at the moment. All the while, the friends and family of Liam Payne, they are grieving. They are disheartened that they lost a close friend, a former boyfriend, a father, a son. Now, I don't usually talk about something like this with anyone. Again, not that I don't care about this stuff, but I know that it's unfortunate something to happen, and when the time is at a natural cause, it's gonna happen to a lot of us. But I will say this. What happened to this world? Why is it that when someone so notable passes away, they resort to some kind of jokes? Like, actually, no, I'm not going to say the jokes. Even I want to, I don't think I can describe them right now. But I've also heard a couple of individuals who have passed away who's not very favorable to many people in the world. I'm talking like possibly Gaddafi, that one leader for Hamas. I know his first name's Yahya, but I'm not sure his second name. But yeah, when even if there are people who's done terrible things in this world, and they are not seen favorably by a lot of people, and people, rightfully so in their own opinion, they don't like this person, why must you say such horrible things to a person that just passed? Even if they've done horrible things. Yes, I understand they did horrible things, and there had to be some kind of punishment for what they did. But to be that person that ridicules or jokes about a passing person regardless of their actions, that's just not a good look on you or anyone else. Anyone who does that is no better. Again, I don't agree with these people. I don't support the actions they did. But still, they still have family, and there are a few amount of friends that know that person, know that it's all about perspective. And it's not, and I'm not, this isn't to convince anyone to like this person more, because I know there are people that have very strong opinions, and I've seen enough from that individual that no matter what happens, they're still going to be fixated on that perspective, on that individual. That is, yeah, you can't be that person that takes the opportunity to ridicule or joke about someone that's passed away, even if they're a bad guy. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with Liam. That I'm just making a point that regardless who the person is and what they've done, they have friends and they have family. You may not agree with what they say and what they do, but just know there are people grieving. And they don't know this individual personally and closely. And I think with these news stories, although I understand they're doing the job and telling people how the world is and what is going on with that situation with whatever individuals, from what I've seen in the past few weeks regarding Liam Payne, I think there has to be a line drawn somewhere. You're not telling people to stop talking about it, but just remember, there has to be some consideration for when events like this happen. I get it's a shocking experience and people would question why this is individual a big deal to begin with. That's something I can argue with, or that's not something I could speak for anyone on their part. That is just how the world is. There is going to be a point something like this has to be talked about. And even when someone passes away, and knowing of their actions, the things they say, just give it a few weeks. Allow the friends and family of that person who has just passed to grieve. Let them have their moment. It's just too soon. Also, How would you like it if someone in your family passes away and people saying horrible stuff about them? Now that'd be different because it involves you and your family. That is exactly the point. You may not agree with people in this world, but it's going to happen to us at some point. We're all going to go through that. And we've got to find ways to cope with it. We're going to have our moments in grieving. That's just what's important. As much as we want to live perfect lives and enjoy our lives to the best of our ability, and how they shouldn't be negativity, and I agree, there shouldn't be. However, there will come times of struggle and difficulty and many, many challenges. So it's unfortunate to hear about Liam Payne, what has happened to him. It's very unfortunate. Again, I've also seen online that when celebrities become famous so young, they're always going to be introduced to drugs very early in life. Now, I'm not going to defend people becoming famous at an early age, but I will say that when people get to a point in their lives, they become so famous. This is just me. Why people are so open about giving drugs to young individuals or just anyone? But just importantly, people at a very young age. I don't get that personally. And no one should ever be introduced to drugs at a young age. Because again, most of them, although you may think it gives you some tingly sensation, but it only lasts in the short term. In the long term, it's gonna build up to a long addiction, and you just can't get off it without some kind of intervention or rehabilitation. I don't know. Rehabilitation. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Without rehabilitation or some kind of intervention, the addiction for drugs is just not going to stop. Unless for some reason you found a way to cope with it. That's something I could do. Not that I would get into drugs consistently to begin with, but I was in that position. Personally, I'd find a way to just get off it, because what's the point? Yeah, it feels good, but what good does it do in the long term? That is the question. But yeah, so sad. And I know there are friends and family of Liam Payne still grieving. And again, when I first heard about this, so the week that Liam Payne passed away, I could have mentioned this in the chat with Eric and Risk 11, but I didn't, because I want to allow the friends and family of Liam Payne to just grieve, because I know this lad means a lot to a lot of people, especially my mates in school, college, and university, who have enjoyed listening to One Direction over the years. And actually, that's another thing I will get into. Like, ever since Liam Payne passed away, I've seen a lot of videos on TikTok, Instagram, and possibly Snapchat of either my mates or just anyone in general, just re-listening to old One Direction songs. And I think one song, Story of My Life, I think that was one of Liam's verses, that when listened to Liam's verse in Story of My Life, it just hits different, because the verse he sang is so true. It is so true. I can't remember, I may have to look it up again, but that verse, man, it really does hit different. Because it's true. The moment Liam Payne passed away, hearing that lyrics it just hits home in a different way. It feels like a prophecy. Not that it is intentional, although Risk and Eric would argue otherwise. It's not some kind of prophecy, but I think, and I've said this in the past, like, if you want to get the truth out, you must tell it as a joke. And again, I'm not saying the lyrics in One Direction songs are a joke. In fact, may not be intentional. There are a lot of things that we say and do that may not mean much now, but in the next few years, if some circumstances happen, it's just going to feel different. And that's what's happening with Liam Payne ever since the incident in Argentina. When he passed away, and people listening to Story of My Life, one of Liam's verses, man, I saw those women on TikTok. They burst into tears listening to that, and I actually feel for them. I don't usually listen to One Direction as often as most One Direction fans do, but I will say a lot of One Direction songs are really good. There are actually a few I like listening to every now and then, but of course I've listened to other songs. Otherwise, I think One Direction do write very good songs, even though there's like a specific writing team that does that for them. I know that Harry Styles has some experience in songwriting as well, hence his very successful solo career. But yeah, otherwise it's been quite a ride for them. And I'm not sure it's fully certain, but I've heard that One Direction was gonna have some kind of reunion. Not sure when that was. Again, I think hearing that in general is just it feels blurry because there's no specific date. It's gonna be a spur in the moment, a surprise, some kind of. But of course, ever since Liam passing away, I've seen a couple of comments on social media saying that next time that One Direction's going to meet up will be at Liam's funeral, because it's been quite a while since One Direction were together. So for them to reunify, at one's funeral, it is such a bittersweet moment. Mostly bitter, because, well, the reason you'd be, the reason why you meet up after someone you know passed away is because you're attending that person's funeral and looking back at everything we did. Again, it's sweet, although it feels good looking back at the past, but very sad that you may not see this person again. It's just very unfortunate. And also, alongside the news articles and a lot of One Direction related stuff, actually, back to the One Direction songs. I think it was a couple weeks after the passing, the incident in Argentina. A lot of One Direction songs and albums have risen up into the music charts on Spotify, iTunes, but not sure which on how by much. But I know that ever since what happened to Liam, a lot of former One Direction fans are listening to their songs again, and having them listen to One Direction songs again in huge amounts of listenership and in a short amount of time is a huge contributor to how and why One Direction songs are rising in the charts again. It may not last for months or even a year, but in wake of what just happened, it was bound to happen. It was certainly bound to happen. And finally, I would say this is very, very tricky to talk about because, well, my mates are grieving, friends and family of Liam are grieving, One Direction members are grieving since the passing, and I've heard a lot of people making theories or speculations on how Liam Payne passed away. What I've heard from those people was back in 2017 when he, David Williams, and I'm not sure what that woman's name was. That's just me. I don't know a lot of celebrities other than the well-known individuals. I remember back in 2017 on the Graham Norton show, Liam Payne was describing his experience at a party, and he saw P Diddy. He introduced himself to P Diddy and talked for a bit. What I recall from that episode of the Graham Norton show when Liam Payne was talking about his experience meeting P Diddy, that when Liam Payne was shaking P Diddy's hands, P Diddy was like laughing, ha 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 ha. That's what Liam said at the time. Yeah, I think that's literally how Liam described it. Actually, you can, and I'm not just saying this, and I'm not just saying all of this, that you can actually look up the episode of Graham Norton show on YouTube. Like I did as I was hearing about Liam's Payne passing. I didn't just search it up after hearing Liam's passing. I only looked up at that episode of the Graham Norton show with Liam Payne after seeing a couple of videos of that particular clip, seen clips of that show, of Liam Payne talking about P. Diddy and the party he went to, and how in fact, the way that Liam Payne talked about P. Diddy, that was one of the reasons why Liam Payne passed away in the way that he did. Of course, there are other factors like use of drugs, because man, they do something to you. And another few things I saw on social media is that, and most people said along the lines of, he did not thank he didn't give thank you to Beyonce. Now, I know I've talked about a lot of stuff like this with Risk and Eric, but I actually looked into this if Liam Payne ever won a Grammy, and last time I recall, I don't think he did. And if Liam Payne did win a Grammy, and I'm not saying it's true, but this is what a lot of people said, if Liam Payne won a Grammy, and he did not thank Beyonce, wouldn't he follow the same fate as Aaliyah or Left Eye? Although there's a difference, and I'm not making it out as genders or whatever, but from what I've heard on social media in regards to not thanking Beyonce, Aaliyah and Left Eye were women artists that were on the rise. Liam Payne already had an established solo career after One Direction split up. In fact, the only One Direction member that did win a Grammy was Harry Styles, and he did thank Beyonce. So he's still alive, I guess, from what people are saying. Also, in regards to what people say on social media in regards to Beyonce, P. Diddy, there was also a picture shown with Beyonce, Jay-Z, and P. Diddy all together. So seeing that, it gave me the impression that they're very close friends, and friends always stick together, no matter what. That's at least how I like to roll. And again, I'm not agreeing with everything, because, again, I had to look up if Liam Payne did win a Grammy to believe if not thanking Beyonce for winning the Grammy would result in him being unalived. Like, why now? Why now? Or at least at the start of October, why at the start of October are we hearing news about Liam Payne passing away? That's just me. There are things in this world that just don't add up to me. It doesn't make sense. This is why I'm questioning. I do not jump to conclusions. I actually try to look into things. Like what happened on October 7th of 2023. Although there was so much, I did not jump to conclusions. I actually had to look into it and think about what was going on and what are people feeling at the moment before I make a conclusion and get an idea of what is going on. And even I do get an idea and I do make up my mind and have opinions on something, I know not a lot of people are going to agree with it. And that's okay. We're all going to have different opinions. Because that's how I know that that everyone around us are unique from one another. We don't live the same lives. We don't have the same access to healthcare, housing, or, well, actually, access to anything in society. And also, there are different races in this world. Not everyone's white, not everyone's black, not everyone is Asian or Arab. There are different races, and in fact, there's a few amount of races and ethnicities that not many people know about. But that's just me talking about how everyone in this world is different and unique from one another, and that's okay. Man, this is just a lot. And looking at all the reasons, I do think, and I know it is not guaranteed, there's still going to be incidences like this. There's people going to still be like that. However, we must do what we can to not just be aware of what goes on in this world, but actually take the time to look into things. Because you don't know what's real anymore. And you may not know what goes on, or what is the cause for these things. And I know, I have said things, And though I stand by them, I know not people are going to agree with it. And again, that's okay. I'm used to people not agreeing with things that I've said in the past or have done in the past. So I know the game, I know the drill. I know how to deal with this. However, looking at what people are saying online about what Liam Payne said about P. Diddy, and of course P. Diddy getting arrested for the things he has done, or I wouldn't say the things he said a lot of things, but things he's done is a lot more pressing for media and people in the public. It's complicated. It's very complicated. That people will pay the price at some point, and they will pay the price. It just may not be in our lifetime. And even if something is to be done about it, most of these people won't even be alive by then. That's another thing. Even if something is to be done, and they were about to be ready to give punishment to these people who've done horrible things, they're just not going to be alive anymore. Regardless, it's a lot to get into. I did all I can to, although express my concerns on what has happened to Liam Payne, but at the same time, I do try to consider that, again, he's not just a famous celebrity with tons of fans. He does have a family, and everyone that Liam knows, they're still grieving and feel emotionally torn. He's no longer with us on the physical plane of this planet. But man, 31 years old. He's so young. He was so young. And with all that being said, this has been quite the episode, and whatever happens, I hope that there is more awareness to what goes on in this world. Whoever is responsible for the awful things in this world, they're going to be punished to an extent that is equivalent to what their contribution has been. And I'm not dropping this as an advert. I'm not promoting an app like this. I remember Eric, Jacob. We've seen how this world is, how awful it is, trying to make stories for a quick buck, like Shadowminer once said. I really hope that me, Shadowminer, and Eric, the project that we're working on, it aims to tackle issues like this. And we do get clarity on incidences and situations like this. And then no more will there ever be misinformation, the awful people in this world get away scot-free, or the people on top. No more will they continue to manipulate the minds of the public to believe certain things because certain buzzwords are mentioned. I hope a solution like that does come about really soon, and I especially hope me, Eric, and Shadowminer hopefully find ways to resolve issues like this with the project we do hope to launch somewhere in December and into 2025. However, with all that being said, until next time, stay tuned for more.